Joining me right now is the Daily Wire writer Ian Haworth. Great to see you, Ian. Thank you so much for joining us. Haworth. It's not that difficult. My apologies there, Ian. So let's talk about the situation with China. Look, it looks like Beijing did buy some soybeans. I don't know if they did the whole commitment of $250 billion of the commodities that they had promised in phase one deals. But we know what has taken place between the U.S. and China. What is your take on where we are right now with this partnership?
Well, again, I feel like what we need to be doing is looking at China through the correct lens. I think right now everyone's looking at China as if they're just another trading partner. For example, the EU is often compared to China for some strange reason. We need to start looking at China for, frankly, the geopolitical enemy that they are. So I wrote an article a few weeks ago for the Daily Wire titled "China is Our Generation's Nazi Germany." And frankly, their behavior makes that comparison quite apt. And so what we need to be doing is looking at every single interaction with China through that lens. And then issues of trade over certain commodities or certain other arguments become less important when we think about just the moral weight of the question we're facing.
Well, it's not the wrong comparison given the human rights abuses, Ian. I don't disagree. But today, I wonder if you would compare 1939 to today, 2020, when in 1939 you had certain enablers not recognizing the evil that was the Nazi regime, and they, in many cases, directly or indirectly, were enabling that. Do you see that today, given that there are a host of areas where in this country that they say, look, we want to invest in China, whether it's global investors, global CEOs, they see China as their growth story. So how do you communicate this story, what you're saying, comparing them to Nazi Germany, to those people?
Well, it's a much harder problem because we have the issue of money thrown in. With Nazi Germany, they were slightly more isolated from the world. The world economy was in completely different shape than it is now. And so in that form, China is actually more dangerous than Nazi Germany. They are completely integral to every single one of our economic plans. As you say, people are actively seeking investment in China. Our entire supply chain relies on China. So if anything, we are more reliant on, again, who should be a geopolitical enemy. And so in terms of human rights, I say there are tons of comparisons. I mean, we literally have people being carted off on trains to concentration camps based solely on their religion. I mean, that is what Nazi Germany are known for.
That's right.
And what I find quite disappointing is that a lot of people in the US, mostly on the left, love to use the comparison of Hitler, Nazi Germany, the Holocaust, to label anyone they see as an opponent. But we have literal behavior that is exactly the same as that of Nazi Germany happening across the world. And quite often it's just silence. So if anything, I see China as more of a danger than Nazi Germany in a lot of ways.
Which is why people like Kevin McCarthy are saying, you know, what do the Chinese and the Communist Party have on the Democrats? Why aren't they bringing bills to the floor, putting Democrats on McCarthy's task force against China? He's trying, and the president is trying to rein in Chinese influence. The U.S. is now labeling Confucius Institutes as a foreign mission of China, essentially a propaganda tool for the Chinese Communist Party. And Brian Brandenburg, that's pretty much what they have been. Confucius centers have been set up near our university, even near our grammar schools. But if you go to a Confucius center and say, hey, I'd like to know more about what happened in Tiananmen Square, they'll say, no, we're not going to discuss that. I'd like to know more about the national security law that was just instituted in Hong Kong. No, we're not going to discuss that. So it's all propaganda.
Yes. Yeah, these are campus organizations that are certainly about propaganda. I think a lot of people also think they're about spying on Chinese students in the U.S. to make sure that they're behaving or doing what the Chinese regime thinks is appropriate. People don't know about these, and they found their way into our education system, and they aren't about learning about Chinese culture. They're a tool of the state. I'd love to hear Ian comment on that.
I mean, yeah, sorry to interrupt. I agree completely in that they've made this quite clear. I mean, we're talking about this Confucius Institute. They have put pressure on institutions not to have, for example, the Dalai Lama come and speak. They've put pressure on people not to talk about Taiwan. That flies completely in the face of fundamental American values of freedom of speech. And we need to flip the way we deal with China Rather than allowing them to do what they want and then trying to retrospectively change their behavior, it needs to be on the level of, you need to adhere to our levels of morality, our levels of expected behavior before we even consider dealing with you. The cat is out of the bag on this one a little bit, and I would like us to take a step back.
It sure is. It sure is. And we're going to keep on having Jimmy lie on as much as he'll come on. He was arrested again, but he's out on bail. We heard from him yesterday live. Ian, thank you so much. We'll be right back.